Nikki Haley had a big uh-oh in front of a big crowd at a town hall recently in which she missed a very easy question. Now, I do have a little bit of grace for her, but we'll explain after this. Watch this from a recent town hall where Nikki Haley, again, swings and a miss on a pretty easy question, if I say so myself. Watch this.
Please, what was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not being president. I want to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me when you answer that question.
Now he's asking about slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery? Next question.
All right, so first things first, say the Civil War was about slavery. How about that? I get it. I understand the want to go immediately to technicalities, because here's the situation in these types of town hall events. And like I said, I'll give her a little bit of grace, because in so many ways, so many people on so many different levels and so many different events are trying to get you to trip up. I've experienced this firsthand on my own, obviously not nearly to the level of Nikki Haley, but I go on these college campuses and I watch Charlie Kirk or Candace Owens or any of my other friends that are speaking, sometimes even myself, take questions from the audience. And these questions can be about anything. And what I mean to say is, in a lot of cases, there are people that go there specifically or were sent there specifically to ask the gotcha question, the trick question that's going to get you tripped up, fumbled on your words, and so on and so forth. So, from the extent of I understand being tepid when it comes to a response like this, kind of tiptoeing around it because you're not really sure where the question's coming from, who's asking, why are they asking, what are they asking specifically? I get it. But also, not every question is a trick question. Maybe this person was sent by a Democratic campaign. I don't actually know. But at the same time, given the situation, given the media scope, given the culture around how we view things historically, how we view things in the modern times, just say the Civil War was caused because of slavery. Now, I understand the technicality. Like I said, I understand the technicality of saying, well, technically the United States said slavery was illegal, and the reason the Civil War happened was because the southern states not were fighting against whether or not slavery was legal, they were fighting against whether or not they were still going to remain a country. That's what the Civil War was about. Did it revolve around slavery? Absolutely. But again, on a technical basis, the Civil War was about keeping the country together based on the differences of opinions of whether or not slaves should be allowed or not allowed. Whether or not you were fighting for slavery, I guess in theory could be kind of like almost a legalistic argument by a legalistic character. Now, having said that, like I said at the beginning, the correct answer is to say, well, slavery, because if you don't say that specifically and simply, you're going to get a clip like this, which leads to the further point of people running for president and when they get tripped up and how they get tripped up. If you're to watch presidential candidates from, I don't know, even the 90s, the 80s, 90s up until now, if you look at when they get tripped up and when they fumble a very easy question like this, especially in the public eye, without getting into the technicalities and the nuances and the nitty-gritty of it, just simply saying the Civil War was to fight against slavery, when they do get tripped up, in most every single case, it is because they're trying to not get tripped up which ends up tripping them up. What Nikki Haley did here, I'm going to put myself in her head. If I were to think about the way that she's thinking about these questions, it's, all right, I'm on a big platform. People are trying to get me to screw up and say something I don't actually mean and then have to defend it. And therefore, I'm thinking too much about it and I'm not answering the question that's right in front of my face that's very simple because maybe it's a trick question because it's too simple. That's what I think she's thinking. And because she's thinking that way, she ends up tripping up and doing the very thing she was trying not to do in the first place, which is usually, in my experience, pretty much the only time when people do trip up, when they're trying so hard to not screw it up that they end up screwing it up. So at the end of the day, did Nikki Haley fumble a softball question? Yes. And not only in the eyes of Republicans, right? Because remember, she's running against Republicans right now. But this clip, this talking point, has made its way all the way to the White House, and Joe Biden now is using it to say, the answer is simple, it was about slavery. And I guess fair, because this question was very simple. But I do want people to understand, I don't want to say the difficulty necessarily of taking questions from random people in random scenarios, but I guess the trepidation that one might have when a question seems too obvious and too easy. Sometimes it is that obvious and it is that easy, like in this case. But other times, I do understand when people are like, whoa, what do you mean by that? Do I answer it this way? Do I answer it that way? Bottom line here, if I were to put a little bow on this, answer the question that's in front of you. Maybe stop trying to think so much about, well, how are they going to spin this answer if I do it this way? No, just answer the most obvious question there. And then if you get knocked for answering it the wrong way, it's an easier sell to say, look I answered the most obvious question to the best of my ability. What more do you want from me? I don't know. She'll recover maybe, but at the same time, I feel like this is not a great look in this particular instance for Nikki Haley.